Alright, so John Colo with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'll be juicing solely in the all-new Nama J3 juicer. Now, I've made a few videos already on the Nama J3. I'll put links down below to them below. That being said, I'm going to tell you guys like it is. I share with you guys my personal opinions on all the different machines when I review them and demonstrate them. So first off, before we even get into juicing, and today I'll be juicing 12 different recipes. That's more recipes than I've ever juiced in one video in my life. So, and the reason why I do these videos is so that you can know what to expect when you buy the machine, right? There's lots of online claims that manufacturers make, that other influencers make, and I try to cut through all the BS and share with you guys real, actual world results when I juice similar amounts of produce in different machines so that you guys can see the time, the difference between the yields, pulp put into the juice, as well as I go over the different build qualities and my personal assessment of the juicers, okay? The next thing I will say is that I am not the biggest fan of the Nama J3, right? I think Nama could have named it a little bit better. They should have called it maybe CJ1 instead of J3, because now everybody that, is going to buy the J2, they're like, oh, there's a J3. It must be better because it's J3 instead of J2. So it's the newest model. The newest model must be better. And in my personal opinion, I would personally rather buy the Nama J2 and would encourage you to buy the Nama J2 as well, unless you absolutely don't have the space for the J2. That's really what the Nama J3 is made for. It's made for compact spaces. I live in America. We have large kitchens, and I juice like a health-minded American. I don't personally have a small kitchen, so I would always want to buy the J2 because I know it just performs better and is easier to use, an overall better user experience in my opinion. But I know some people around the world may have smaller kitchens and they just literally don't have the room for the larger machine. I'll have a link down below for my video comparing the J2 and J3 when that video is available. So, where I measure the size difference, this is not that much smaller in my opinion. It's just a few inches smaller, a few pounds lighter, and you maybe save $100 in the cost. But in my opinion, you're losing functionality and, more importantly, the ease of use of the J2, and that is why the J2 is so popular in my personal opinion. Now, the other thing I will say is I personally disagree with some of the design elements of the Nama J3. I know why they made some of the design elements and design decisions that they did. I just will say that I don't agree with them, right? What they did was, in order to make it small, to meet safety code violations, they didn't put a hole in the top. That was so that they could keep it small. For me personally, I see that as a major drawback because that basically removes functionality. So, it's cool if they want to choose, a compact space so you could leave it on your counter. And if you leave it on your counter, they surmise that you're going to use the juicer a lot more, right? But then every time you use it, it may be a bit more of a hassle if you're juicing larger quantities because you got to open the lid to load up each batch, right? And so what do you think? I want to know down below what you think. Would you rather have a juicer that's a little bit taller with a hole so it actually has better functionality? Or would you rather have it smaller so it actually fits in underneath your countertops? I mean, that's only a decision you can make. Of course, my decision is that I'm always about the functionality. And although this machine looks nice and it has no seams in the base, which is amazing, I would prefer the seams in the base of the J2 and the better functionality of it. I mean, there's some other design elements that I'm not the biggest fan of in the J3, but that's beyond the scope of this video. I do mention about some of this in my other J3 videos, and you can find links down below to the videos I have posted to date on the J3. That being said, the reason for this episode specifically is because when the J3 originally came out, Nama had told all the influencers a specific range that the J3 can produce if you fill the hopper with one load of produce. And I'm not going to mention that range because they later rescinded that and then they made an updated correction even on their website. It was different in different places on their website. That being said, what they have settled on is that if you load the hopper, it can make between 8 to 16 ounces of juice in one hopper load. In my original unboxing video, link down below to that, when I filled the hopper with oranges as well as carrots, it made approximately 12 ounces of juice in both cases. Maybe a little bit more in one than the other, but to me it was both around 12 ounces. But you could actually make up to 16 ounces, because in another video I juiced watermelon. I loaded up to the brim, and actually I made 21 ounces. So that's, that's a little bit, watermelon's probably one of the wateriest things you can juice. That being said, what I've done today is actually I put together painstakingly, cut, washed, prepared, harvested in some cases, every single item of produce here, so I could actually load up the hopper with one load and then juice to see two things for you guys. Number one, how long does it take to juice in the J3 to make one glass of juice? How long will we be waiting? And number two, how many ounces of juice will it make with one hopper load? Of course, if you do something like watermelon, or really something juicy like oranges, or actually tangerines are more juicy than oranges, have less pith, you're going to get a higher yield on those. Surely you'll make, 16, 17, maybe even 18 ounces, right? That being said, if you're juicing solely leafy greens, like fill this hopper up with kale, you're not going to make a lot of juice. I have a recipe where I have only greens in it. Of course, I also have a recipe where I have, watermelon with mint, and I have, only grapefruit, only Cara, Navel oranges. I have all different kinds of recipes so we can see the overall time it takes as well as averages. Now, the other thing I'll be saying is that this is a torture test, because literally I'm going to juice all these straight in a row, and I'm not even going to clean the machine. And that is one thing I like about the Nama J2 as well as the J3. It does have a durable motor that you don't have to clean the juicer in between batches if you don't mind the juice residue from the previous batch going in to your next batch. And I'm not so concerned about that. So the other thing is that my name is John Kohler, and I started my company DiscountJuicers.com back in 1998, over 25 years ago. And I started juicing 29 years ago myself, and I drink juice on a regular and everyday basis. Actually, most of the juice these days is actually made in the Nama J2 machine. And I started this business to save you guys money on juicers as well as educate the customers. And back in the day, I had comparison charts, and then later I had like streaming reel videos, if you guys remember what those are. And then as soon as YouTube was available, I started making videos demonstrating the machines on YouTube, and have over 700 videos online, so that you guys could basically watch me use the machines, explain them, compare them, so that you don't have to go out and buy the wrong machine and then get it and like, oh, I don't like it. You can see how all these items juice, and if it's acceptable to you, then buy that machine. So that's really why I make these videos. I mean, this was a lot of work. This basically sucked up my whole day, including produce shopping, preparing produce, making sure every recipe is gonna fit in the hopper. So if you guys appreciate my work and also want to save 10% off on the Nama J3 or J2, or even their C2, which is their convertible juicer blender, you can use the coupon code TWOCUP, and we'll throw it up right there, TWOCUP, because the Nama J3 compact juicer can make pretty much up to 2 cups of juice in one fall swoop. And that's what I hope to share with you guys today. Of course, I'll also be taking the averages of all the different recipes to see how much on average will this juicer make, with one hopper full of produce. All right, so we're all set up and ready to juice. Now, the other thing I really wasn't the biggest fan of on the Nama J3 was the catch containers it comes with. So today, actually, I'm just using a little measuring cup from IKEA. It actually measured up to 16 ounces, but I actually marked it up to 20. Just in case we go over, so we could actually know how much juice each hopper full made. And then, of course, I'm using as the catch cup. This is a 2-quart Anchor Hocking glass measuring cup. Link down below my video on that. You're basically available at Target or Walmart. Holds a lot of pulp and easily will fit under the pulp catch, or actually could fit under the juice catch as well if you want to, catch a lot of juice in the J3. That being said, of course, the J3 is made for you know, single serve glasses. And that's the other thing I want to share with you guys before I do all these recipes, is that I got into juicing for my health to turn around a chronic autoimmune condition, right? And, you know, if I just drank 1 glass of juice a day, like I'm going to make 12 of them today, I drank 1 juice a day and then it still ate my traditional diet, whatever diet, you know, standard American diet, like that probably wouldn't have done a whole lot in helping my body to heal, right? I have a strong belief and experience that, you know, the more juice you could drink, and I specifically talk about vegetable juices is what I want you to drink, not necessarily fruit juices. Fruit juices in high quantities, in my opinion, and also based on the science, is not healthy. Small amounts could be healthy depending on what they are. But I want you guys to drink copious amounts of especially leafy green vegetable juice and root juices, right? Which will probably tend to make a bit less yield in the J3 because of the hopper is so small. And so to me, this does just not make enough juice for healing purposes. Or, you know, if you want to do weight loss or juice fast, I definitely would recommend against buying the J3. You want to spend a little bit more money and get the J2, which is literally a workhorse machine, right? That being said, I know a lot of you guys just want to add 1 glass of juice a day because you like the flavor and you're not doing it for health. And I don't understand people like that, honestly, because I am not one of them. I'm just going to go for it all the way and do the best I can and get the most and flood my body with the most phytonutrients. But if you're one of the people that just want to drink juice because you love the flavor and you want to make it fresh, you have a small kitchen, maybe if you travel, you know, or you're in a dorm room and just want to drink a little bit of juice, yeah, the J3 could be the solution for you. I will say that the J3 is not a disposable machine like a lot of the expensive hopper style machines that are out there. This has a full 15-year warranty, and you may be even handing it down to your relatives when you're done with it, and hopefully you're going to hand it down to your relatives because you outgrow it and actually want to drink more juice, and you finally end up buying a J2 like I would like you to do. In any case, let's go ahead and explain the recipes that I'll be juicing today, all 12 of them. So we start off here in the back. And we have basically, this is my vitamin C Supershot right here. This is basically, I think I used 3 red long peppers, sweet peppers, and 1 orange. And the vitamin C content, guys, is not because of the orange. We think vitamin C, there's a lot in oranges, but bell peppers have off the charts vitamin C content. I do add the orange to kind of make it a little bit sweeter because some people may not appreciate just the taste of straight pepper juice. So I do encourage you to juice orange, yellow, or red peppers instead of the green peppers, which are unripe and actually generally have lesser nutrition. But if green's all you could get, hey, that's going to be a nice flavor to add to the oranges. All right, next up, we have organic grapefruits, red grapefruit. So this is literally 3 pretty large grapefruits I cut into quarters that we're going to juice to see how much juice we can make. And this is probably going to juice on the higher side, closer to 16 ounces in my opinion. Next juice up is a very simple juice. This is a green juice, and I would encourage you guys to check out my video down below, my basic green juice recipe. This is kind of like my basic green juice recipe. It's a 1 cucumber and partial of a iceberg lettuce, as much as I could get to fit in the hopper, which is not a whole lot. So it'll be interesting to see how much that juice yields. Next up, of course, is probably one of the most famous juices on the planet, thanks to the medical medium, Anthony William. We're going to basically fill up the hopper with 1 whole, almost a whole head, not quite a whole head, of celery to see how much 1 hopper full of celery that pretty much fills the hopper is going to make in the Nama J3. Now, when I filled the hopper of the J2, it made approximately 24 ounces of juice. Links down below to that video. I have a video where I make 4 distinct recipes in the J2 to kind of determine how much juice that machine could make. And that was not really under debate, but I found out that that could make, with 1 hopper load, between 24 to 32 ounces of juice in general, on average, using several different recipes in that video. That being said, this hopper is a little bit larger than half as big. The hopper on the J2 is 70 ounces, whereas this hopper is 36 ounces. So half would be 35 ounces, it's half plus 1. But even though it's half plus 1, the biggest challenge I see, although the volume is about half, the issue is because it is a lot smaller. Unless you cut things a lot smaller, you can't be as efficient packing the hopper full of items, so you're going to end up missing space, which ends up meaning you're going to get a little bit less yield. So yeah, we got 100% celery. It'll be interesting to see how much we make on that. And then we have a whole, this is about a total of four Cara Navel oranges. In a previous test, I was only able to fit 3 oranges in, but then I didn't like pack them in there. In this test, I was able to fit 4 packed in tight. I will say all these recipes do not abide by NAMA's rules because they have a maximum fill line, which they basically have a little arrow pointing down that you shouldn't fill past this point. And for me, I just want to fill the hopper to see how much juice we could make. And when I have filled the hopper over the fill line, it's always worked perfectly. Actually, and here's the thing I'll say is actually, when you fill this machine over the fill line, it actually does work better than the NAMA J2 if you fill it over the fill line, due to that there's no hole in the lid and the design of the lid is more flat, and also this lid will actually latch down if you do overfill it, whereas the J2, the lid tends to pop up if you do overfill, which is probably a good thing. So people like me can't overfill it, which could cause some issues, all right? Next recipe up is a root juice. Now the root juice, here's the thing, guys. Things like roots are going to get a lesser yield than things like fruits, right? Fruits have a lot of water content. Roots, for the density and for the pulp content, you have the least amount of juice in there, so it's going to generate more pulp and have less juice. So this recipe specifically has, I think it's like 1 purple sweet potato, 2 carrots, and then partial of red beet in there, because I want to see how that's going to work. Next recipe up, this is a fun recipe. This is basically pineapple, apple, cucumber, and mint from my garden. And that's a nice watery recipe. I try to encourage you guys not to juice straight fruits, but always at least have some kind of vegetable with it. I'll put a link down below to my video, why you should never juice fruits without doing this to make it more healthy, where I discuss this in further detail. Next recipe up, we basically have, this is going to be a maximum yield. I bet you money that this is going to make the most yield out of any recipe. This is all watermelon with just some mint out of my garden. And then next recipe up, this is a fun one. This is also going to be a higher yielding recipe because it is high water content foods. And this would be kind of more conducive to the recipe I would make with fruits, where I basically have pineapple that's cubed, as well as the jicama that's cubed. Jicama is an amazing item to juice. Jicama is a root vegetable, and it has a lot of inulin, which actually can regulate your microbiome and is not absorbed as sugar, although it does taste sweet on our taste buds. So that's good for us. This is an all green recipe, or leafy green recipe. We have basically iceberg lettuce as a filler, but mostly we have the red cabbage. I encourage you guys to drink especially the red cabbage as much as you can. Red cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable, has anti-cancer, detoxification properties for our liver, as well as anti-cancer properties as well. It is a powerhouse, and this is probably going to make maybe the least yield. We'll see what happens. And then next recipe is kind of like Jay Cordich's famous recipe. He loved his parsley. This is all parsley harvested from my garden, a whole bunch that lines the first maybe inch of the bottom of the hopper. And then I also added in like 2 carrots and 1 Granny Smith apple. I encourage you guys when juicing apples to juice apples like Granny Smith and apples that don't dent when you press into them. They're going to juice a lot better, make less pulp than when you juice softer apples like Galas. All right. Now the final recipe, this was the most demanding for me to put together for you guys. So I really want to share it. If you guys look at that, you guys can see the bottom is lined. And this is basically all fresh cherries that just came in a season. I painstakingly pitted every single one. You cannot put cherry pits in the NAMA J2 or the NAMA J3. You do need to remove the pits. I do not encourage you guys to thaw frozen vegetables or fruits and try to juice those. The texture is way off. And while it may work, you're basically going to end up wasting your frozen and thawed fruits or vegetables because you're going to get very little juice out of them using a NAMA juicer. That being said, this is fresh cherries. I picked them as hard as firm as possible. So if you are choosing to juice fruits, pick the fruits as hard as firm as possible. I didn't have enough cherries to fill it to the brim. So then I basically cut up a mango. So I cut the skin off the mango. Technically, you could juice the skin, but this was not an organic mango, so I don't want to juice the skin in case any pesticides were on it. So I cut off the skin, and I'm going to juice mango. I also juice mango in the Nama J2. Link down below to my video where I juice, I think, 5 different kinds of fruits in the J2 to show you guys how the J2 does on fruits, and actually did amazing. In this case, I'm juicing hard firm mango. That's going to juice a lot better than the soft mango, just removing the skin. And of course, you must remove the pit off of mangoes, as well as the seeds off things like the cherries, nectarines, and other hard seeds. All right, so that is all the recipes. And what we're gonna do is we will be timing how long each recipe takes to juice. So I think I'm gonna start off first with 100% celery juice. All right, so I think I will go ahead and load up the hopper before I start juicing. Now, the other thing I will say is that, you know, if you buy the Nama J3, you do have to cut things a little bit smaller if you want to fit it all in the hopper, because the hopper is smaller. Of course, there are other juices in the market where you don't have to pre-cut your produce. You can just stick the celery in whole and just push it in with the pusher. So I guess what you're really trading is whether you want to cut it, load it in here, and then hopefully walk away and let the machine work unattended, which in the case of the J3, I just feel that it's just really not a lot of juice you're making to have it work unattended, and it's going to require you to come back more sooner than later. Whereas the J2, you could make, you know, significant quantities of juice, especially if you're using the 3-liter hopper, which is my favorite. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and load up all this celery into the Nama J3. All right, dropped all the celery in there. We might have to finagle it down a little bit. Got the lid shut, no problem. Pretty much loaded. And we're gonna go ahead and hit the start button. And we're gonna go ahead and turn the machine on to see how long it takes to juice and how much juice we actually make. Alright, the J3 is pretty much done juicing the celery. My personal opinion is that the J3 does maybe take a little bit more time to process the produce than the J2 would, given the same amount of produce. We're pretty much done. I mean, we still got some drips coming out, but let's go ahead and hit the stop here. So basically took 3.5 minutes, and let's go ahead and see how much juice we got. I always like to turn the machine off, and more importantly, we're going to go ahead and tip it up to get any last residual juice out. Now, keep in mind, we are not straining the juice today. Should we strain the juice, we will get some pulp out. Some recipes will be more, some will be less, depending on the specific item you're juicing. Celery tends to make a bit less pulp in the juice. And let's see, the yield on this, I'm going to say that's like 11.5 ounces. If you guys could see on the glass there, 11.5 ounces of celery juice in 3.5 minutes. And we're just going to go ahead and pour all our juices in mason jars. All right, did a fairly good job emptying the hopper, and it chopped up all the celery. There's a little bit of residue in the hopper, like some of this. Of course, I did not cut the celery as small as they would probably want me to cut the celery, because once again, I test these machines hard. All right, next up, actually, let's go ahead and do another mild recipe. This is the cucumber with iceberg lettuce. All right, we got all those ingredients loaded in the hopper. Let's go ahead and shut the lid, and we're gonna go ahead and hit start. And we're going to go ahead and turn the machine on again and let it go to town. In order to save you guys some time, we're going to speed this up until the machine is done, and then we're going to come back at you. Alright, I might need to agitate this a little bit to get it to go in. Probably should have cut the iceberg lettuce a little bit smaller. Alright, so I want to stop it right there real quick because it looks like we're making some juice, but the issue is the pulp pretty much hasn't been getting ejected. So this is what I surmise. I surmise that because I did not cut the celery up into smaller strands, some of the celery strands are basically stuck and not allowing the pulp, the softer pulp of the cucumber and romaine to come out. So we're going to get a more pulpier juice coming out. And also this may cause the machine to not be able to get disassembled later on, right? In the J2, if I don't pre-cut the celery, I believe the machine is a bit better dialed in to basically still eject it and pretty much not get clogged except in rare instances. Whereas in this instance, the J3 did get clogged. So, you know, yet another, in my opinion, reason to buy the J2. It's a bit more bulletproof. So when this does happen, and this can happen also in the J2, what you're going to want to do is you're going to go ahead and shut the lid where the juice comes out. We're going to open this up, and then you're going to pull this out, right? And you guys can see this is stuck in there, right? If I pull hard, wow, I'm basically, all the celery is stuck in because it's not coming out as easily because the parts are miniaturized or smaller than the J2. You know, the passageways are tighter. And this case, you know, you're definitely going to have to cut your celery even smaller. So yeah, it's pretty stuck in here, guys. This would definitely cause an issue if I did not unclog it. And this is something to remind you guys, probably wouldn't have to do on the J2 except in super rare situations. I can't remember a time I've had to do this in the J2. All right, so I was able to finally pull out with some difficulty all the stuck in pulp. I mean, the obvious way to do this would be just to take the machine apart and clean it in between each use. You know, when I use a J2, I've made 3 gallons at once, never stopping to take the machine apart to clean it. So, you know, once again, with the compact version, you know, you will take some sacrifices in my personal opinion. Anyways, let's go ahead and rough this up because I had to turn the hopper completely upside down to get the pulp out. And we're going to go ahead and push this down a little bit to help the machine out a little bit. And I guess this is messing up our overall time because I did have to deal with this. All right, let's go ahead and turn it on. Open the juice spout, and hopefully our pulp will now eject without a hitch. All right, so it's been almost 7.5 minutes. The J2 would have been done by now on this recipe, in my opinion. What's going on is, I mean, there's a few things dropping into the juicer to get juice, but the majority is actually stuck on the side of the hopper here, which is actually designed purposely as a square so they can actually get more volume in there. That being said, because they designed it as a square to get more volume in there, in my opinion, the downside of the square design is that the hopper is not as effective as the circular design of the Nama J2. So, you know, with this machine, you know, especially in this case, when everything's stuck to the side of the hopper, we're just going to have to take my hand, flip it down, and actually even more than flip it down, I'd like to just try to flip it and flip it off the sides and then actually then flip it in the hole. This is something I rarely have to do in the J2 because it just works a lot better based on my personal experience. All right, so that's what I'm going to tell you. I try to tell you guys like it is, and I give you my personal opinions and takes on the machines, and whether you want to accept my opinions or not is completely up to you. But I mean, I'm not making this up. This is what's happening to me when I'm juicing, and you don't understand how frustrating this is for me when I'm juicing. Like, I just really don't want to deal with hassle. I don't want to get all these things in my fingers because I know if I use a J2, like, this would just not be an issue. All right, so we got that stuff packed down. Let's just go ahead and shut it and let it keep juicing. I'm glad to say that the pulp clog is unjammed, so it is juicing just fine. The other thing I will say is that because the pulp did not come out, that's going to automatically make your juice more pulpy. So I always want you guys to pay attention when you're juicing. If pulp stops coming out for any significant amount of time and your juice is really pulpy, now you think the juicer is a piece of junk or it's not working right, it's because there's a pulp clog. So then that means you did not pre-cut things as small as you should have, or you didn't clear the jam. So I always want you guys to pay attention on the pulp coming out as well as the juice coming out to further enhance your juicing experience. All right, so I'm going to stop it finally. So it looks like it took basically almost 11.5 minutes. This is not completely accurate because I did have to stop it and kind of screwed around with the machine a little bit. But nonetheless, this recipe did take some time because of the softer textures of the cucumbers and the iceberg lettuce. Also, you guys can see literally just pulp is flowing into my juice. That will artificially inflate the yield. Let's go ahead and get any last drips out. Close the spout cap. Take a look here, and I'm going to say that's like 15.75 ounces of juice, and this is definitely a more pulpy juice. So 15.75 0.75 ounces. All right, let's go ahead and pour this into a glass. All right, pretty smooth until we get to the bottom, and then we get a lot of pulp. Almost filled up our whole mason jar. All right, next recipe up, I think I will do the pineapple, apple, mint, and cucumber. So let's go ahead and hit our reset here. And let's go ahead and dump this into the J3. All right, that recipe is pretty much loaded into the machine. Let's go ahead and open the spout cap, hit the start button, and turn the machine on. The thing I do like about these batch juicers is that while the machine is running, you could go ahead and wash your dishes while the machine does the juicing without you. And we'll see if this actually just drops down because it is a little bit tightly packed in there. Alright, so I think we're going to call it at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Pretty much finished. That being said, there is some residual pulp that you will need to flick down manually from the J3 hopper, and this is just part of the design on the machine. Alright, let's go ahead and tip it up. And let's go ahead and see how much juice we made. This one looks like we made approximately straight up 14 ounces of this juice recipe. And we're going to go ahead and pour that into another mason jar. All right, next up, let's go ahead and do another torture test for the J3, which is basically straight green juice. Yeah, technically cabbage is a leafy green. It's just a head green, as is the iceberg lettuce. So let me go ahead and get that loaded up in here for you. All right, so I painstakingly loaded that in. Now, be aware that I am probably loading more than what normal people would load in, so my yields may be on a little bit on the high side. So I do want to give that disclaimer. Let's go ahead and hit the reset, shut this lid, go ahead and hit the start button, and let's get juicing. Alright, so we're just about done making pretty much the red cabbage with a little bit of iceberg, and as you guys can see, there's a lot stuck to the sides. This just really bothers me a lot. So, you don't have to do this. You could just wash this all down the sink, but when you do that, you're just basically kind of wasting food. So I like to kind of brush it down actually into the hole so that it'll actually get juiced. Now, the other thing I will say is that, in my opinion, this machine seemed that it made significant amount more foam on cabbage. Cabbage is known to make foam when juicing, but for some reason, there's a lot of foam generated by this machine. So I would probably say that if, juicing cabbage is one of the main things you want to juice, I personally would not buy the J3 to juice the cabbage due to the, in my opinion, excessive foaming that is going on. All right, so let's go ahead and stop it here. So we're basically up at 6 minutes, and go ahead and turn the machine off, and let's go ahead and tip it up and get any last bits of juice out. All right, now let's go ahead and check our yield. The yield on this one was definitely on the low side. I'm going to say that was basically on the low end, so this is like an 8.5-er. 8.5 ounces for a whole hopper full of cabbage. Once again, cabbage is a leafy green. If you fill this with something like baby kale or other greens, it would probably make this much or maybe even a little bit less. All right, let's go ahead and pour that into a mason jar. Now the foam is basically just juice that has been aerated highly. So we'll see if we can get this to, wow, look at all that big head. Now when juicers produce foam, my personal opinion is that that is causing some oxidation, to your juice. All right, so let's go ahead and get our next recipe. I think to clear this out, we're going to do our root juice, which is also going to be another lower yielding recipe. So let's go ahead and load this up. This is once again the purple sweet potato, the orange carrot, and the regular beet, red beet. All right, let's go ahead and shut the lid. And let's go ahead and start the clock and turn the machine on, open the spout cap, and let's get juicing. We're going to speed this part of the video up and come back at you when it's done. stopped on the hard root vegetables like it did on the original unboxing, so maybe I shouldn't get up and leave. I should probably sit here and watch. So, you know, here's the thing, guys. Oh, stopped again. You know, the J2 has a more powerful motor for the size, right? Both of them are rated at 30-minute continuous use, but I surmise that the J2 has more torque. Obviously, when this one is stopping on carrots, or actually it might be the purple sweet potato, you know, that means that you're gonna have to babysit this machine more than you would on the J2. To me, not having to babysit the juicer is one of the beauties of the hopper-based design. So when a hopper-based design machine stops when it's juicing and it requires your intervention, what's the difference between you sitting here and watching the machine, taking up your valuable time, when you could actually just use a machine and push produce into the machine, a manual feed machine, where you at least know it's going to just work without an issue the first time. Or if you have the J2, I could put this recipe in there that I've done. Actually, this is my recipe during the pandemic. Link down below to my video where I make a root juice. I made 10 quarts of root juice. I mean, I don't even think the J2 stopped once, but this is stopping a lot. And once again, this just increases the amount of time it will take you to juice. So this is something you should consider if you are considering buying the J3. Think about how much worth it is it to have a smaller juicer, to maybe have some inconvenience of having to reverse it on and off. Or maybe can I fit the J2 in my kitchen? It's a little bit bigger, but it's gonna give me less hassles and less dealing with the on and off switch. That is only a decision you could make. I easily know my decision. I really just don't like screwing with juicers. I've been screwing with juicers since I've been selling them for over 25 years. I've been juicing for 29 years, and I just like something that is really easy to use personally. Of course, you may be different than me. All right, it continues to stop, and I got to continue to, you know, stop it and reverse it and then go forward. I think to save you guys some time, we're just going to go ahead and speed this part of the video up for you. Alright, so we're pretty much just finishing up. The one final comment I want to show you guys real quick is that, you know, depending on what you're juicing, it will make more or less pulp. So for example, root vegetables tend to make a lot more pulp than juice, whereas something like celery or leafy greens tend to make a more compact pulp and more juice, alright? So we're going to go ahead and stop it here at this point. Looks like it took 4 minutes to make our juice. And let's go ahead. It did empty the hopper fairly well in this situation. Tip it up and get any last bits of juice. And this juice also, as I had expected, is on the lower end of the yield. Once again, I'm going to claim this is about 8.5 ounces of juice, where I pretty much loaded up the hopper. It also had some issues with me having reversed it. That being said, it was done in approximately 4 minutes. All right, let's go ahead and pour this into a mason jar. All right, up next, let's go ahead and do a fun recipe. We're going to go ahead and reset the clock. And next up, we're going to go ahead and juice our jicama plus pineapple. That being said, we're going to go ahead and put the pineapple and the jicama in the machine. That would normally make a yellowish juice. It's going to actually come out more reddish because it's going to actually clean out all the pigments out of the machine. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, we got that recipe loaded. Let's go ahead and shut the lid, hit the start button, and turn this machine on. Hopefully this recipe does not stop because jicama is relatively softer to juice, as is the pineapple. So we're just going to go ahead and do some dishes while this juices. Alright, I think it's about done. Due to the squared off shape of the hopper, there's definitely some pulp residue that does not go in, and actually it's conveniently sitting on the corners where the processing blade cannot easily reach. So we're just going to go ahead and try to get it dunked in there and get any last bit of juice out. Alright, I think we're going to call it. Took 2 minutes and 39 seconds for that recipe. Let's go ahead and turn it off and tip this up. A few drops. And let's go ahead and take a look at the yield. So I'm going to say this yield is pretty much at 17. You guys can see our pineapple jicama juice actually turned out a little bit red due to the previous recipe we made. And I think 17 ounces may overflow our mason jar. Let's see. Oh, right up to the brim. And we still have a little bit more, which I'll get to drink. Tastes good. All right, next up, let's go ahead and do another high volume juice. That's gonna be easy for the juicer to burn through, hopefully. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna just do mint and watermelon. Always best to load the mint in first and then the watermelon on top. Let me go ahead and get it loaded. All right, let's go ahead and open the spout cap, hit the start button there, and turn the machine on and let the juicer rip. The machine had an amazing time doing that recipe without any issues whatsoever. And actually, like I said, it was done pretty quickly. 1 minute and 42 seconds to rip through the mint as well as the watermelon. And let's go ahead and tip this machine up and get any last drips out there. And that actually produced minimal pulp because we got a lot of juice here. Let's take a look at the yield here. So that is a straight up 16 ounce yield on the watermelon and the mint. In this case, I did try to put a lot of mint in there as compared to watermelon. And we're gonna go ahead and pour that juice out for you. Right, whoa, right up to the top. 16 ounces, double confirmed. All right, next up, let's go ahead and do another fun juice today. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and juice the red sweet cherries as well as the mango. Probably best to maybe try to get the cherries in there first and then put the mango in on the top. All right, so what I'll say is if you decide to juice cherries, make sure you remove every single pit. One pit can actually destroy the juicer, potentially even voiding your warranty. I got that shut off. Let's go ahead and reset, hit start, and let's go ahead and turn the machine on and let it get juicing. All right, so the J3 is just about done juicing. That recipe worked without an issue. Pretty much got the sides cleaned pretty good. Looks like it took approximately 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Also a really easy recipe to juice for the J3. Once again, softer textures generally going to work better. This recipe did produce a lot of pulp, actually. Generated a lot of pulp there. And actually, let's go ahead and check out and see how much juice we made. Looks to me that we made straight up 14 ounces of juice. Let's go ahead and throw it in a mason jar to confirm. Maybe it's going to be right up to the line approximately. It's like a nice juice there. Yep, pretty much. 14 ounces straight up. All right, getting down to the end here. I think what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and do the red pepper and orange juice, my vitamin C bomb right here. And we're going to go ahead, dump in all the red peppers first. And we're going to go ahead and put our one orange in right on top. All right, shut the lid, reset, start it up. Turn it on, open the spout cap, let it get juicing. We're going to speed this part of the video up, save you guys some time. All right, it looks like this recipe was juiced without a hitch in the J3. Looks like it took 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Let's go ahead and turn this off and lift this hopper up. So, here's the thing I'm learning, guys, is that, if you're doing like juicy things, the machine works pretty good on them. If you're doing things like root vegetables and leafy greens, then there's a bit more challenging situation. So really it depends on what are you expecting to juice in the machine. If you're juicing softer items, right, J3 works great, honestly. All right, let's check out the yield on this one. All right, so on this recipe, the peppers plus the one orange were in at 12.5 ounces. And let's go ahead and pour this out for you guys. Nice juice there, good texture, not a lot of pulp in it. All right, since we're on the theme of citrus, I think up next, we're gonna go ahead and do the 100% grapefruit in the J3. All right, we got all the grapefruit loaded. Let's go ahead and hit the reset there. Shut the lid, turn this baby on, hit the start button, and let's see how long it takes to juice 100% grapefruit in the Nama J3. Looks like I may have packed a little bit too tight, so we're just gonna go ahead and agitate it a little bit. Alright guys, so I just want to give you guys a heads up here. We're at about 2 minutes and 26 seconds. And it looks like all the grapefruits that I quartered are not just dropping in perfectly. It looks like somehow it's wedged itself in there so that the machine's spinning. Very little juice is coming out. No pulp is coming out. And so at this point, you know, this is something that I would not have to do in the J2 because of the smaller hopper, right? I'm going to have to basically open it up and kind of shift it around, help the machine out. This could have been rectified by cutting your produce even smaller, something, once again, I would not have to do in the J2. So let's go ahead and try to, I think I got impaled on the auger. Something's going on here, weird. So let's go ahead and try to pull this out and reshift everything around here. All right, and let it continue. Hopefully it works now. Alright, so I want to give you guys an update. We're at the 6-minute mark, and we got a piece of grapefruit impaled on the auger, or on the processing blade, so it actually never going to go in. So I got to basically manually take it off. This could also happen on the J2. Of course, if you cut things smaller, less likely to happen. I did notice it did have some challenges feeding things in, and that's what happens. You know, you're going to have extended and longer processing times with this machine, in my opinion, due to the smaller hopper, unless you cut things even smaller, so the smaller hopper could deal with items more effectively. That being said, it's almost done, and the yield is actually quite impressive. All right, so I think we're pretty much done. Let's go ahead and hit the stop. Pretty much, guys, took 7 minutes to juice, and let's go ahead and see how much we got. 7 minutes to juice. That, in my opinion, is just a little bit ridiculous for a glass of juice, personally. All right, and we are at, I'd say that's like 18.25 ounces of juice. We're going to go ahead and give you guys a close-up on that. 18.25. That's impressive. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pour it up to 16 ounces, and then I get to drink the rest. Tastes like grapefruit juice. There's a caveat for grapefruit juice. If you are on certain drugs can be affected by grapefruit juice, so you might want to contact your doctor before choosing to drink grapefruit juice. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and do a sweeter juice. The Cara. I think this one I was able to fit 4 Caras. The Caras were smaller than the grapefruit, so let's go ahead and load up the J3 hopper. All right, we got the last Cara in there. Let's go ahead and shut the lid, hit the reset, turn it on, and turn the machine on, and let's get juicing. I will say we've made a lot of juices, and now the base of the Nama J3 is quite warm. So, you know, I don't know if you would really want to make this much juice in one sitting. If you are making this much juice, in my opinion, you want to buy the J2. The J3 is definitely set up for, you know, small amounts of juice, not meant for batch juicing such as this. And honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm frustrated with it a little bit, is because it is slower and not as convenient as the J2 due to its smaller size and some of its design, I'll say peculiarities, you know, due to the design that I'm not in 100% agreement with. Alright, so I want to give you guys another update. I do not recommend cutting oranges or citrus into quarters. You should probably cut them smaller, because and actually also filling up the hopper too much. The processing blade just does not seem to be effective to basically rotate things so that it actually could drop in. So we're going to go ahead and open it up and then, you know, fiddle with it a little bit to reposition the load inside the hopper. Alright, it looks like the Cara juice is just about done. That took approximately 4 minutes and 36 seconds. All right, let's go ahead and check the yield out over on this one. So the yield on the Cara juice, if you guys can see, is approximately 15 ounces. That's quite respectable. Not as much as the grapefruit. So, you know, of course, this will depend on the quality of your citrus. The citrus fruit could be big. It could be a little bit more lighter, or it could be heavier when you buy it, right? And here's the trick. If you're buying citrus, I want you guys to pick up each fruit and weigh it in your hand, or if you're really hardcore, weigh it in the scale at the store. You want to buy the fruit that actually weighs more. The fruits that weigh more have more juice inside, is going to make a higher yield, and they're also fresher because as the fruit gets old, it tends to dehydrate, lose moisture content. So yeah, straight up, 15 ounces of Cara juice. All right, finally we're down to our last recipe, and this is the Jay Cordage special, the parsley. He loves parsley. The carrots, as well as the green apple. So always best to load up the parsley in the bottom of the machine first. So we got that recipe loaded into the hopper. We're gonna go ahead and shut the lid, hit the reset here. Now the thing I wanna mention is that, you know, this hopper is about half the size of the J2. It's also not quite as wide, which is of course a 2-liter hopper versus, you know, 36-ounce hopper. So it also is a little bit more difficult to get things in without maybe going over the side. That's really why I love the 3-liter hopper on the J2. That opening is huge, so you barely ever miss the hole. All right, let's go ahead and hit the start button, and let's go ahead and turn the machine on, and let's get juicing our last recipe. All right, so we stopped on the carrot. That's probably the thing that stopped it up. So I'm gonna have to actually sit here and babysit the machine while it juices, just to ensure that we complete this task. All right, guys, this recipe literally juiced without a hitch. It got the hopper fairly empty. There is a little bit of particulate sticking to the sides within acceptable range, and it worked without an issue. Hit stop. Looks like it took basically 2.5 minutes, and we're gonna go ahead and turn this machine off. And we're going to tip it up to get all the juice out. And once again, we're going to go ahead and check the yield. And on this juice, I want to show you guys, looks like we pretty much made 9.5 ounces of juice. Once again, lower end, because we are juicing primarily carrots with some greens. And the carrots and the greens, to remind you guys, will produce more close to the 8-ounce mark. And the watery fruits will produce more up to the 16-ounce and maybe even exceeding that by a little bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and line up all the juices we made in the NAMA J3 and show you guys my opinions and summary. All right, there you have it. I've juiced all 12 recipes. This was lots of work to put this video together as well as to edit it. So I hope you guys really appreciate it and enjoyed my commentary throughout juicing as I observed what was going on with the machine and how I could be able to explain that to you, and more importantly, share with you guys my personal opinions on the machine. I guess at the end of this, you guys could see in order of a yield from the least to the greatest, right? Some of the juices did make around 8 ounces of juice. What I'll share with you guys is if you tend to juice lots of root vegetables and leafy greens, you're going to be 10 down to this side of the juice. The leafy green was the cabbage. Of course, we have the carrots here with the apple, which will increase the yield a little bit, and the parsley. Over on this side, we have basically 100% roots. Over here, we have the celery juice, which will, make on the lower end. But then we got into the pepper juice, which then peppers don't have as much juice, especially when they take a lot of airspace to fill up the hopper. With one orange, and you could see like a lot of the fruit-based juices, whether you're using pineapples, and this is the cherry juice. I can't wait to drink that one. The cherry mango juice, definitely in the lower end, has a lot of pulp because those fruits tend to be a lot more kind of juicier, and in my opinion are better actually eaten or blended than juiced. And of course things like the pineapple jicama produced on the high end, as well as the Cara juice, as well as the grapefruit juice as well. So really it depends on what you're going to juice, will depend on the yield. Of course, my personal opinion is that if you guys are juicing for health, you actually want to stay on this end of the juicing spectrum where actually your yield will be lower. You really want to focus on the root vegetables because they are hard to digest and extract the nutrients of, and when we juice them, They get absorbed faster in our bloodstream. You know, drinking 8 ounces a day is definitely better than nothing, but, you know, I usually juice about a quart of root juice and a quart of green juice a day, which is a lot more vegetables that I'm getting into me. Of course, I know some of you guys are on this whole fruit healing kick and doing fruit juices. You know, this machine, I would say, maybe is a bit more apt to do that just because the fruits are more watery. And of course, the items on this side tend to juice a lot easier. We did have some issues with the celery. The cabbage juice foamed a lot, and on both root juices, just when we juice the apples with the carrots and the parsley, it did stop. That being said, the root juice with the carrots, purple sweet potatoes, and beets stopped a whole bunch, right? And that's just going to make it more difficult for you to juice. But if you're juicing only fruits, right, the machine pretty much powers through those without an issue. That being said, just, you know, putting my 2 cents in on how it compares to the J2. Based on my limited testing, I will say the yields are fairly similar to the J2. One may get a little bit more, one may get a little bit less, depending on the specific recipe. Also said the pulp in the juice, probably pretty much similar, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on the recipe. So Nama did an amazing engineering job on the J3 regarding that. That being said, you know, for the volumes that I do, it's just not a practical solution, but I know, you know, a lot of you out there watching might just want to make a glass of juice like I did today, and you might want to stick to fruit juices. In that case, the J3 would be the machine you want to get for a small compact juicer that's not going to end up in the landfill with a full 15-year warranty. That being said, if you want to stick to more of the healthy juices, I would strongly encourage you guys to go for the J2, which will juice these without an issue. Link down below to my video where I juice 10 quarts of this juice. Takes over an hour without a hassle in the J2. And I've gotten so used to the J2 that that's the performance that I expect out of Nama juicers. You know, maybe if they came out with this one first and I didn't have the J2, I might think this one was really great, but because I'm so ingrained into the J2, I've used it as my favorite juicer several times a week. You know, that's the level of performance I'm into, and in some of these videos you may see some of my frustration because I'm a bulk juicer. You know, I make no qualms about that, and I don't understand the people that just want to make one glass of juice. That being said, if you want to make one glass of juice, this is probably the best machine out there for you. Now, if you guys enjoyed this episode, all the work that I put into this, including having to store these juices, buying the produce this morning, prepping it, cutting it, making every recipe, and then juicing it all in front of you guys so you guys could see it, because no other influencer will go this deep. This literally took my entire day to do, and now it's going to take even longer to edit this video and get it up for you guys. If you guys appreciate my work and I've helped you out, please help me out. This is how I can continue to make these videos, pay my video editor, buy my produce, spend my almost whole day making videos for you guys so that you guys have the knowledge you need and are empowered as a consumer to buy the appropriate machine for you. Whether it is a Nama or whether it's another brand machine, please always use the coupon codes that I mentioned in my videos, because the manufacturers will share with me a small commission so I can continue my work and it literally makes my work possible. So I want to thank you so much who will use my coupon code or who have used it in the past. And if you guys want to buy the Nama J3, because after watching this video you're like, John, that's the juicer I want, then please use the coupon code TWOCUP, TWOCUP, because you can see in the majority of these juices, we made pretty much 2 cups of juice. As the max, of course, you know, in some cases you will make 1 cup, which I've already explained, but basically this machine is good for making up to about 2 cups of juice on average with a more watery, fruity style recipe. Now, when you guys use that coupon code, once again, not only will Nama share with me a small commission, but you guys will also save $45 off the Nama J3 juicer that is available in the US and ships for free in the 48 United States. This is also available in Europe and around the world at the same website, namawell.com. You guys could also use that same coupon code, 2CUP, that'll save you 10% off in your local currency. And in the European Union, as far as I'm aware, they have free shipping on the J3. Nama really hopes that this machine will really help people out in other countries, you know, because they have smaller kitchens, whereas, you know, here in the US, still the J2 is outselling the J3. So, but if you guys want to buy the J2 after watching this video, then use the same coupon code TWOCUP. That'll save you $55 off on the J2. The J2 is available, of course, in the USA with free shipping to the 48 United States. It's also available in Europe with free shipping to the European Union. It's also available in the UK and Australia with discounted shipping rates. Of course, Navel will also ship all over the world. So no matter where you are, you're going to get the same juicer with the same performance and, of course, the same NAMA warranty. That basically is the reason to buy the NAMA in countries other than the USA. In the USA, we have really good juicer warranties, but around the world, you guys get shorted on your juicer warranties. And with the NAMA, you get the 15-year warranty, the same as the customers in the United States, which is your assurance that you're buying a machine that will last you for many years to come. I truly hope that you appreciate this video, and if you do, show me some love by giving this video a thumbs up, more importantly, sharing this with other people that are considering buying the NAMA J3 so that they could see the actual real-world performance of it. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you get notified as my new videos come out. I have videos coming out every 5 to 7 days. You know what new juicers I'll be testing, juicers I'll be comparing, or juicer knowledge bombs I'll be dropping on you. Also, make sure you click the little bells to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 700 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about the different juicers and other appliances that allow you to process your plant foods in the best ways possible so that you can eat more of them and get the most nutrition out of them. I put links down below to some of my other videos I've made with the NAMA J3 as well as the NAMA J2 for your viewing pleasure. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.